4 wins and 2 losses, including a 1-0 defeat to AZ Alkmaar. A real tough test for the Potters, but 11 goals scored and only 3 conceded isn't too shabby at all. So let's take a look at Stoke's pre-season ahead of the 2024-25 Championship campaign. We're going to talk through some key points during this pre-season, but of course you can't look too deeply into, of course, the results or even player performances, because it's all about the minutes and the legs, making sure we're nice and sharp, ready for the opening game against Coventry. So let's talk about some players that were key standouts during this pre-season. One of the players that has really stood out during pre-season is Andre Vidigal. Now, he got 2 goals against Crewe in the 30 minutes that he played, but he's another player that, you know what, we know what he can bring to the table. And of course, the opening start of the season, when we were playing against the likes of Rotherham, he ran right around them. He got his goal and he was a real threat, and hopefully he can bring back that form for this season. And what he also brings to the table is just that depth in the winger role. You'd say that Manouf and Jun Ho are your kind of go-to wingers, but the option of having Jun Ho in the 10 could mean that Vidigal comes into the side and of course offers something different. But during pre-season, I have enjoyed the kind of the cameos that he's made, or even the impact he's had. Now against Chester, a side that you probably would have said that we should be dominated and having the ball and looking threatening, I felt like he was real good. Now of course assisted Tesgout for the goal, but it was his bit of skill, his bit of flair that allowed him to be through on goal. So hopefully he is knocking on the door for Schumacher to go, yes, you're in the starting 11. But in terms of pre-season, he has looked really solid and one of the standouts. Now as well, Stoke have made 4 signings this summer window, and I feel like each of the 4 all bring something different to the table, which we've seen glimpses of in pre-season. Now Ben Gibson is for me a real key one. Now I feel like he won't have too much kind of focus on him because of what he brings to the table won't be the most obvious thing, but the leadership that he brings at the back, the kind of being a left-footed centre-back is huge in terms of playing out from the back and kind of giving us a bit of fluidity in how we play. But that leadership at the back is something that is definitely key to what we need in this season. And I feel like during pre-season, we've seen him do that. It looks like he could, of course, have the captain's armband. It hasn't been announced just yet, but it does certainly look that way based off who's been the captain during these pre-season friendlies. But yeah, he's definitely one that brings that leadership, that bit of structure at the back that we probably desperately needed last season. Victor Johansson is another one that we brought in during the summer window, and in all fairness, against AZ Alkmaar, he had a couple of times where it was a little bit risky, a little bit like, oh gosh, what's he doing? But he's just a real confident keeper. He proved himself in the Championship, and you know what, I think he'll definitely be a real key signing this summer, and it'll be interesting to see kind of how we play out from the back and how we kind of use him differently to how we used the goalkeepers last season. Now we know that he has quite a lot to his game. He can play it long, and in terms of to Sam Gallagher and having that height at the up top, it then brings us that different outlet. So it'll be interesting to see what we do with him. Do we want him to play it out from the back all the time, or going long and switching up the play could be something that gives us that different element, that different aspect to the game that could be tactically a real good thing. Eric Bocat, another one that during pre-season I've liked the look of. I really have. A more attacking left back. He likes to get up there and he can absolutely get the ball into the box. He likes to dribble. He likes to get at them like absolute peaches of crosses. And with, of course, the likes of Sam Gallagher up front, that could be a real good outlet, as I mentioned. So I'd like the look of him. I really have during pre-season. And if he can show why we brought him into the club, which we've seen glimpses of during pre-season, I'm sure he'll be a fan favourite. And finally, of course, Sam Gallagher made that kind of 30-minute appearance against AZ Alkmaar before he got injured. Hopefully nothing too serious, but we kind of saw what he will bring to the table, a different kind of striker to what we had last season. Maybe you've got them similarities to Wesley, but I think he'll bring a lot more to the game than what Wesley did in terms of how Schumacher wants to play and wants to press and on and off the ball. Sam Gallagher will bring that if we can keep him fit. So for me, against AZ Alkmaar, I feel like the option that he gave, that kind of height, I feel like it is a sign of the football that we could play next season. Gives us an outlet of, if we are struggling to play it out from the back, getting it up to him, his hold-up play, and hopefully his aerial battles will be something that is key. So pre-season-wise, we obviously haven't seen too much of him, but hopefully the injury that he got in the pre-season friendly against AZ Alkmaar isn't anything too serious. And then finally, the academy players I've been really impressed with during this pre-season. Now, like I said before the game against Chester, that Schumacher is the type of manager that will put his faith in the academy lads, and I wouldn't be surprised if quite a few of them are on the bench against Coventry. Now, of course, we probably would say we do need more signings, and that could then result in these players going out on loan, which will be an absolute huge thing for them to build the confidence and build up that kind of experience in the Football League. But for me, the academy players that have played during this pre-season have been absolutely superb. Now, there's so many of them. Emre Tezgal, of course, got his 2 goals against Chester, took him fantastically well. He then showed what he brings to the table, and of course, last season, he was on loan at MK Dons, so could it be a similar team to that he goes out on loan in? But for now, it could be that he's in and around the kind of starting place with Gallagher now potentially injured. Will he be maybe an option to start up front against Coventry? We'll have to see. But as well, Sol Sidibe, what a composed player. A fantastic player. He likes to move the ball, can play in that 6 role so well, and it definitely shows why we've got these younger lads in and around the first team. There's such a composure about them that they can move the ball. They're not scared to face the pressing of the opposition, and it was really enjoyable to see them get their chance and to show what they're made of. And another player I just want to highlight during this pre-season that I've definitely been impressed with is Jaden Dixon. Now, he's involved in the England youth setup, and you can definitely tell why. You really can. The 17-year-old is so composed at the back. He's not scared having the ball at his feet and spraying it out long and going for the risky passes, but he's also such a battling player, and with his height and everything, I feel like he's just one of them players that he definitely has a big future ahead of him, and hopefully we can keep hold of him. Now, of course, there was interest from elsewhere in terms of having his services and wanting him in their club, because right now, with the centre-back options, has every right to be on that subs bench or even in the starting lineup. Of course, he doesn't have loads of experience, but he's shown during pre-season exactly what he's made of and exactly why he's in the first team. We're not going to go too much into detail into every single game that Stoke played during pre-season, but there was definitely a lot of positive signs that we can take from it. Now, one of the things is, of course, against Chester and Cork, of course, 3-0 against Chester, 5-0 against Cork, there was some real good positive signs, and as expected, you'd probably say before the game that we should have been dominant and should have had chances and should be winning the game. Now, not taking anything away from Cork or Chester, but Stoke just showed their quality. They really did. They moved the ball well. They were playing that 1-2 touch passing and really getting the space and working it and getting on the score sheet. And especially against Cork, I really enjoyed that performance, especially first half. The way we passed through the lines and kind of stretched Cork in a way was really good. And the use of both the midfield, full-backs and wingers was really key into how we got our goals, and especially that third goal, the way it was worked well, and that's exactly the football that Schumacher wants Stoke to play, and seeing that glimpse of it there, we kind of know that they can do it. So it's obviously a big difference when you're playing against a championship team. It'll be a lot harder to break them down, but in terms of showing that quality and kind of understanding what's required of them, the games against Chester and Cork I really enjoyed. I really did. It was good to see that we can play that football, and it's just a matter of, will we be able to do it in the Championship against teams that will have the same quality as us. But for a pre-season game, obviously not looking too deeply into it, it was real good to see. And then, of course, the 3 away games in England, where it was against Crewe, Bolton and Stockport. And you know what? You'd say they were a lot more stubborn, a lot more difficult. And, of course, they have quality in each of their side. And we definitely saw that in all 3 of the games. But it's one of them where you can't look too deeply into the results or the performance or anything like that, because it's just about getting the minutes in the legs. But I did enjoy it. Don't get me wrong, it's good to just watch how the game goes and the lineup. But of course, 24, 25 players, if not more players being involved during the pre-season obviously won't reflect how we're going to be during the season. Of course, we don't know how many players will be coming into the door before the summer window closes. So it could be a total different side to what played them compared to what we'll have come the kind of end of the season. We'll have to see. But it's just one of them where get an idea of who might be in and around the starting lineup and who might be going. We don't know. We'll have to see what happens. But against stubborn sides and difficult sides, it's obviously a true reflection of what we'll get in the Championship season. But we do definitely have that real quality in our side. And of course, against obviously Bolton, quality from Manuf and that ball through was just that little bit of that extra quality that we have in our side to break down teams. So hopefully that can continue in this Championship season. But it's all about just building up that sharpness, getting us match fit, ready for the Coventry game. And of course, there'll be another stubborn side, a very, very quality side, I must admit. There'll be a team that for me will be up there this season, and the signings they've made and who they've been linked with and all that lot could be definitely kind of a team that are going to be tough to break down and both as to defend against as well. So it'll be an interesting one, but definitely the match sharpness will be there based on this pre-season. Now, the final pre-season friendly was at home against AZ Alkmaar. 1-0 defeat, but you know what? A real tough test, a good test that we definitely needed. Not one of them that's like a reality check, but a real good kind of realistic idea of the battle and the quality that there is. Now, they're playing European football for another season. They're in the Europa Conference League, so you can definitely tell why. You really, really can. On and off the ball, there's such a technical side. They're really structured when they're off the ball. They know how to work it, how to press, and the moments that they need to press. They were a real good technical side, and they're quite a good team to watch in terms of their style of playing. Now, on the ball, you have such a kind of tempo and intensity to their movements that the players know where each other are, and you can definitely tell why they're playing European football next year. There's such a fluidity to their play, which obviously resulted in quite a few attacks for them. But in terms of Stoke, now the lineup was of course Johansson in goal with Shamadou, Ben Wilmot, Ben Gibson and Eric Bocat as the back four. As a midfield three, it was Jordan Thompson as the six with Wouter Berger and Josh Laron as the two advanced players in the midfield. And then on the wing was Lyndon Gooch on the left, Manuf on the right, and then up top for what was the first 30 minutes before he got injured was, of course, Sam Gallagher. Now, in terms of performance as a whole, because it's another pre-season friendly that you can't look too deeply into, you can't really go, oh, that wasn't very good, we're going to have a bad season. It's still building in that sharpness as a week until we play against Coventry. So it's still all about getting that structure and kind of getting the players knowing what they're doing, like obviously AZ Alkmaar do. That fluidity in the team. They know what each player brings to the table, and there was such a, like I say, fluidity and tempo to their play. But that just shows that it's of course pre-season. You're just still looking for that sharpness of playing week in and week out 90 minutes of football. It'll be the first time that these players are doing that kind of distance of game, so that sharpness, that kind of match fitness is still being built back up, ready for the Coventry game. But it just felt like we were a little bit sloppy in possession. There wasn't like a huge threat that we were sending to the AZ Alkmaar backline. But one thing was that, of course, it was two teams that weren't playing narrow, but in terms of midfield and playing through the lines, they were able to do it so much better than us. And what we were resorting to is playing it out wide, and they were kind of reluctant to get it into the box when, of course, Gallagher's not there. When it was Ennis up top, obviously he doesn't bring that height that we can obviously tower over players and bring in that aerial battle. So it was more of a case of playing on the deck and kind of getting it out there. I mean, we kind of lost that outlet then, but we still didn't provide the service for Ennis, and it was a little bit kind of sloppy and not really as intense. But it is just kind of a case of match sharpness and building that up and looking fit and ready. But it was definitely a sign that we do need to bring in a couple more signings before the end of the window. Now, I don't know, which one would you say is the biggest position we need to fill? For me, I do feel like it is that centre-back role, because if either Gibson or Wilmot get injured, you'd obviously say, yes, get Dixon into the side and won't have any problems. But in terms of depth and experience, then centre-back for me is that position that we do kind of need to fill in. But in terms of a pre-season, it's looked decent. It really, really has. We probably do need to bring in new additions, which will come, and hopefully there isn't any panic stations, and I doubt it. I don't think we need to worry just yet. And in terms of injuries, we've not really been blessed with kind of injury-free games. We've had a few injuries during this pre-season, which hopefully isn't kind of going to be too bad for us. Hopefully Gallagher is back for the Coventry game, but we'll have to see. I hope you guys enjoyed. That was pre-season 2024 for the Potters, and I'll see you guys next time.